Hi, I'm B from Nectar Mechanics, and in today's video, we're going to be recreating the original 2007 Optimus Prime arrival scene, but this time, it's G1. So if you were here last week, then you'll know that I made a G1 Optimus Prime model in Blender, and the super cool thing is I made it cel-shaded, so it looks just like it did in the original cartoon. At the end of that video, I said, what would you like to see me animate him with, right? I've got the whole model, I need to sort out a rig, but I want to animate it to stuff. And one of the first comments I got was by Bremboys, who asked me to recreate the 2007 Optimus Prime arrival scene using my model. And I thought, that's kind of fun. We're swapping the styles, we're doing something fun and new with it. I did originally want to make tons of other scenes, I asked for lots of comments, but I quickly realized that to do a full animation in 1 week is a little bit tricky. So to start off, I need to finish my model and make it have a rig. And that's not too hard. Making the skeleton with the bones in Blender is not tricky at all. You extrude, you add. The hard part is making sure that it's actually connected to the model properly. See, the reason we do an armature is it's like a skeleton, right? And it means that instead of having to move each individual block, like the head or the body or whatever, we're moving a skeleton and it's connected like a skin. It's easier to use and it's a lot quicker. The only problem is that I'm not particularly good at it. I tried to do automatic weights, which basically means that it goes, oh, you have a leg bone? Let's connect it to the leg, right? And that's useful, it's clever, whatever. Except Blender wasn't clever enough, and it kept attaching his fingers to his hips or his head to his body. Any parts that were close to each other, it would sort of mess up and connect them. So when you went to move it, it would stretch his chin out when you moved his body, and it looked really weird. You can fix this by doing a thing called weight painting, which is basically where you go in and you have a virtual paintbrush, and the more orange it is, the more that bone affects that piece. So because he's a robot and I don't want it to affect certain bits, it's only the lower arm bone that will affect the lower arm. So that one's going to be super red. And any other bones need to be blue when they interact with that object. This works. It's really useful, but it does take a lot of time. And so I actually spent more time weight painting this week than I did animating. The other thing that I couldn't figure out how to do in time was inverse kinematics, which is basically where you grab the foot and then when you move it up, the rest of it moves with it. It's totally doable, and I'm going to be tweaking this model later down the line if I continue to use it. So the robot's finally done, and we need to also sort out the truck. The truck needs to have the wheels move. I found out you can move the 3D cursor to certain bits, so I would move it to the center of the wheel, and then when I wanted to make the bone, it would be exactly in the center of the wheel. That way when it spins, it's going to look right. Then it was just a matter of mirroring it, getting it on all 6 wheels, doing all that, and once it was connected, it was time to start sorting out the scene. I opened up a new file, copy-pasting my models in case I somehow break it, I have a backup, and I set to work. I found some screenshots of the original film's scene and started mapping out my camera to replicate it as best as I could. I'm not going for one-to-one accuracy, and my scene is significantly shorter because I cut out the scenes of the other Autobots. So it does mean that I'm going to have to get a bit creative with it. Start off with, I made sure the truck model was all there and sorted, and we started getting a base plane. We need a road, and we need buildings. I don't want to spend too much time on the buildings, so I'm literally going to get a cube, extrude it upwards, subdivide, 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 and once that's sorted, we can just extrude inwards and create little windows. Then, copy-pasting the materials I made last week into the shading section of the buildings, I can give it that cel-shaded look super quickly. And then for the windows, they just have a low-level emission so that they can't glow. Then finally, we gave the buildings line art so it matches the Optimus. Now, this is my first time properly animating anything outside of a spinning badge and a very jank robot intro, so I'm still learning a lot. I did find out that you can basically keyframe anything. I set the initial keyframe so that the truck was on the far side of the buildings, then I would get it to bring closer, and we can also keyframe the camera to slide with it. Plus, we need to also do stuff with the lights. The way I've set up my shaders, they're very sensitive to going very dark very easily, and it's not really what I want. I could tweak with the shaders and I could fix it, or I could just move the light with it. Now, once we got the truck where we want it, we need to make it transform. That's when I got in my Optimus model, and I wanted to swap them out. I did 2 things for this. I figured out that you can keyframe when an object is rendered. So basically, the entire time, that half meshed up Optimus that's getting ready to transform is always there. It's just that you can only see the truck. Then once I want it to swap, I stop rendering the truck model and swap it out with a robot. And I could do other things as well, like quickly moving them under the ground so you can't see it. Now, in retrospect, I should have made a third model that was a mishmash of the two, because the transition between it is not as smooth as I was expecting. The proportions of the truck on the robot mode is a little bit different, and it's very jarring. So I might need to make a third model at some point soon. Now, he transforms differently to the Optimus in the movie, but some of the key things, like the arms moving out and stuff like that, we could still totally do. This is just a matter of using the shoulder bones and everything, making sure that you use the waist to slide everything up, and then we'd move the legs accordingly. This is when inverse kinematics would have been super useful, because then I could have just moved the foot and everything would have went. But instead, I fiddled with it. The entire time, I'm also moving the camera. If we keep the camera static for too long, it's gonna look boring. Now, I did think that I could be super clever and have it where if I wanted the camera to move to a next scene, like I do with my toy reviews, I could just have it set to 2 keyframes to move super quick. Sometimes this would work. As you'll find out later on, sometimes you see for a split second this smeary movement as it tries to get to that spot. The entire time, I'm referencing the original scene to make sure that I copy certain key aspects. For instance, the head rolling out of the back. Now, you might notice the entire time that it's being a little bit laggy. I'm pretty sure that I've done something wrong because my computer is fully capable of running it, but I think my models may be too detailed, or I've got some settings I don't need. If anyone has any tips on how to fix that, please let me know. But after a few days of animating and getting that all sorted, we were finally ready to hit render. The render took about just over an hour, and once we were done, it was fine to see the results. Which, they need some work. Instead of waiting another hour to render it all again with some tweaks that I might not know work, I'm going to just import it into my editing software of choice, DaVinci Resolve. With that, we can start clipping out the bits like the random super quick camera movements. We can adjust the timings a little better so it moves fluidly so the truck doesn't look like it's standing still. And one thing that was absolutely crucial was syncing it to the audio. This meant that I picked the point where the transformation sound starts, and then I would sync that to there, and everything else pretty much lined up. The truck sounds before he gets there, the transformation sounds. The only thing I needed to sort is that my model transforms a lot quicker than Michael Bay's one. So when I want him to talk at the end, with the mouth plate moving up and down, I had to chop out that audio separately.
My name is Optimus Prime.
Slot it in.
My name is Optimus Prime.
And then find the music that plays in the background, line that up to match the music in the background of the original film clip, and then try and edit it together as best as I can. It's not perfect, but it works. Once that was sorted, I get to add filters to the entire thing. I did vignette to make the corners super dark, and I also added a prism blur to give it slight funky colors on the edges, kind of like Spider-Verse, which is quite fun. Now for my enemy in the editing, the transition from truck to robot. I tried every filter I could. A crash zoom, a glitch, a camera shake. Everything I did didn't look quite right, and that is purely because the models that it was swapping to are not close enough. I need to add a third model that's an in-between one. But I tried my best adding blurs and stuff like that, and eventually I got it to a stage where it wasn't good, but it was good enough. So now, for the moment of truth, it's time to see what the Transformers live-action movies could look like if they were done in the 80s.
My name is Optimus Prime.
That looks pretty damn cool, right? The way the cell shading works as the cameras and lights all move, that swooping shot going all around, the colors, and the sounds. The sounds from the movie just absolutely make it. Each mechanical clunk and thud, it's brilliant. I'm aware it's a little rough around the edges, but just put into perspective the fact that last month, all I had animated was this. Yeah, it's a little bit of a step up from that, I'd like to think. So there's definitely going to be room for improvement, and I definitely want to do more experiments with this model. If there's any other characters you want to see me make in this cel-shaded style, Let me know in the comments. Doesn't even have to be from G1. It could be characters from stuff like Prime or the movies again. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe and come back next week as we're going to be doing more craft builds. This time we're going to go back to my roots with some basic scratch building. And also stop on by next weekend as we got more Transform reviews coming your way. Until then, farewell.